What's good with YouTube? Y'all would know Big Flacco with a convict's perspective, and I'm gonna smash, dash, slide on through with a little bit of energy. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support this channel, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. Now, this video I'm about to drop, I have to do a disclaimer, okay? I can't corroborate anything to be actually 100% accurate on what I'm going to be discussing. Now, after sitting on this and thinking about it over the last few days, it's an interesting topic for discussion because there's parts of it that may be true. That would be something to talk about. And there's maybe somebody out there that could provide me information to corroborate and help add to what I've been hearing. Now, no one can deny this. They've been slowly starting to reintegrate actives and inactives on the same yards, on the lower levels up to even higher levels, right? Except for on the higher levels, they really are still being separated. Now, there's been an increased level of violence that's occurring on these yards. There's also been a lot of people who have died through hot shots as well. What if I told you that some of these hits were actually orchestrated by the active side in lieu of some individuals that are inactive that want to be given the pass to go back active when the opportunity presents itself? What if I told you that this one particular traditional group, right, the longest organization in the California Department of Corrections, right, is worried about a particular big SNY group, right, that has a lot of numbers, changing everything once they start to integrate them more and more on different yards? Now, what if I told you that this traditionally old organization, right, has got at some of these small SNY groups who are actually treacherous and with it, in hopes of employing them to deal with this bigger SNY group that may be a bigger threat down the lines? In 2024, all these things may be going on. CCR has made a lot of different changes, right, in their housing. So, this, we're talking about the Mexican Mafia too in regards to this, right? And the NF. It does not surprise me that there's been a lot of people who are being offered opportunities to return, put in some work on that side, and then be given a pass when the integration does occur. Now, it doesn't surprise me that the Mexican Mafia looks at the Two Fers based upon their numbers as being one of the number one threats to them when they reintegrate. Now, first glimpse of hearing it from someone, at first it's conspiracy. But then I thought about it. Out of all these organizations, what organization has been playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers? That's the Mexican Mafia, without a doubt, man. One of the most shrewd and calculating organizations that there is, man, that they always come out top of all situations because of that. So I've heard that if they were to reintegrate these yards, there is one group that the MA is cautious of it. Not going to say that they're worried, but they realize that they can cause a lot of damage, a lot of problems on the main line for the Southsiders and for the MA. That being the Two Fers, who have been in the system for a long time, and they got huge numbers. They're deep as hell. Everybody talks about that. All these other groups are a lot more smaller. Some are more stricter or have a little bit more concern about who they recruit into their groups. But the Two Fers have had less restrictions, people say, and therefore they have a lot more numbers. Therefore, they can cause a lot of problems in a lot of places. So apparently, maybe some of the moves that have happened on the SNY side may be in respects a gesture towards the Mexican Mafia or even the NF, right, as far as to getting good graces, right, with them when they get out to these main lines. Maybe some of this stuff has been actually discussed and, I'm not going to say coordinated, but expectations have been put. Now, I know it sounds like a big conspiracy theory, right? But is it? That's a question. I remember Dancing Bear at one time in San Quentin and Carson section wanted homeboys to lock it up to go down to the first tier to start spearing some of the dropouts that were talking shit. There have been situations where individuals have tried to go out to the SMI yards to go handle their business and get a pass to come back active. That has happened. Could the fellas from down south be offering a group that's really small but known to be treacherous, the Zapatistas, right? Could they be offering them an opportunity to walk the mainline yards if they deal with all the 2 Fers once they arrive. To me, that would make a lot of sense. Because one, whether it happens or not, if you create a scenario to where at least some of them are trying to comply, you're going to cause that dissension within a lot of people and a lot of distrust. Now, the 2 Fers are probably the most biggest threat to the South Side and to the MA that's on the SNY side. Now, I had this discussion with someone who is on the SNY yard, who is part of one of these SNY groups. And this is the information that he was filling me in with. And now, this isn't nobody that's been on the show. It's nobody that you guys would even know that I have any type of communication with. So when I was gathering this intel from him, what he was discussing, at first I took it at face value. Who knows? But I started to think about it, and I'm like, man, this could make a lot of sense. The fact that there are individuals that are part of some of these SNY groups that are out there on these lines that may be in contact with some fellas that are active and maybe have an agenda is going to bring a lot of distrust and question. It's going to pretty much blow up any yard, any time in a lot of these situations, because you don't know who to trust. You don't know if the next man, what he's doing is, if he's doing this on behalf of trying to get his name cleared when they reintegrate on the non-designated side. So I want everybody to take heed that all this that I'm discussing, it could be fully true, it could be partially true, or it could be complete bullshit. But here's some of the rumors that I have heard. And when I hear stuff like this, I have to see if I can make sense of it. And to be honest with you, a lot of it, a lot of it, I can make sense of it. It does make a little bit of sense, especially how the one group has operated in the past. That group, is the most strongest organization in California, and they barely have not even 100 members probably. Yet they have so much influence out there on the streets, and they can make contacts and communicate with certain groups to get things done if they see it's going to be in the best interest of them in the long run. And especially if you can start seeing actions be took before they even enter those yards ahead of time, you're like 3 steps ahead of the process when everything comes to full head. And that's what made sense the most to me, that they could have damage being done to their enemy from afar, right? Utilize who they need to utilize to get there, and everybody's happy. Even CDCR has put out stuff out there. Is the Mexican Mafia responsible for all the violence that's been going on? And see, they're not just talking about on the GP side. It could be on the inactive SNY side. And like I just spoke upon, I don't see the MA just waiting for things just to happen, for CDCR just to bring them and just for all hell to break loose. I see them making moves ahead of time. So what this individual was telling me, it made a lot more sense, after I put all the pieces together and looked at some of the killings and some of the stuff that's happened recently and some of the people that have died from hot shots. A lot of these individuals are the ones that have more influence as far as being against the active side, and more about the laws and rules that they apply to them and their particular groups. So some of these hits, you got to really look at it through a different lens, right? And think about it. There's been an increase of a lot of hits that have been going on the SNY of members of those groups taking out their own. And a lot of times those members of these groups are very influential people within their collective. Like I said, if the MA could bring the Norte into the fold, right, of the things that you're seeing between these two groups in prison, I could see them reaching out to certain groups that they feel could be beneficial or assets against the threats that will be entering these yards in the near future. Because honestly, if they don't take any steps, don't prepare themselves, it's going to be fucking a hard war, right, that will last for a long time. That's going to go from yard to yard, institution to institution. Now, if you already have the pieces and agreements with certain individuals or groups, once they get to these yards, it changes the dynamics of everything. It puts one group in a favorable position against what they may deem as the biggest threat to them and their legacy. Now, like I said, if this is true, it's actually a fucking genius move. Genius move. Because something has to give, right? Something's going to eventually occur. Somehow, some way. Eventually, everybody's going to be forced out there on these lines together. Now, then again, as far as those to do damage or that want to be active, this could all be in cahoots, basically secret, to where they're getting at individuals from certain groups that they feel that could come back active, and having them put in the work ahead of time, even though they're still part of their particular SNY group. That could also be something that's, being put into effect. Because think about it. Back in the days, the NF and MA, they used to do this thing called run interference, which means they would run interference on each other's activities, and they would use certain groups or certain gangs to do so. And what that would be would cause distractions, to have certain members removed, and just to cause problems. That was one of the ways that they used to use the Chino centers down south, was to run interference on MA activities. And then let's remember the NF back in the days, using undercover Cs, undercover carnals, to which to this day they are still using undercover carnals. So none of the stuff that I'm really talking about right now is anything new. It has happened in the past. Now, it sounds a little crazy. It sounds a little like some conspiracy shit, and like I said, I've gotten a little information from someone that's part of one of these SNY groups that's claiming that this is the kind of stuff that is happening on these SNY yards right now. Now, the NF is doing something similar as well, which kind of makes sense. Same person said that, that they're trying to get people to, saying, that want to go out there to maybe make some moves or whatnot, or put themselves in positions to help for me, that when the time calls them to do so. Which does make sense, because I heard that on some of the lower level non-designated yards, certain individuals were told to, if they could recruit people and turn people, to go ahead and do so when they got to those yards. And I was told that by one of my friends personally. That's what he was told by an active individual when that active individual touched down on that yard. Which, let's be honest here, right? Individuals that are on the inactive yards, right, are all going to be looked at with skepticism by the active side, right? So what better way to see if someone is valid or verify one is trying to get back active than to ask them to put in some work already on that side? It's a can't lose situation. It's only a win-win for the active side if you think about it. This is just a perspective video, just things that I've heard, things that people have told me. They kind of raise questions, and I looked at it from a whole analytical perspective, the good, the bad, and the whatnot. And some things do make sense, some things don't make sense. It's just a matter of time to see if everything I discussed ends up being true, and things start to come out that, yeah, these things did happen on these yards for this reason. Now, I don't believe that there's any alliances with any group on the SNY side, but I do believe that there's probably some individuals that have been got at from particular groups that are in cahoots potentially to do some certain things on behalf of these groups on the active side, in hopes of being given the opportunity, when all comes to light, of going back active. Anyways, if anybody has any information, do reach out to me. You guys know how to get at me on IG or through my email, right? My IG is Mr., which is Mr. Flaco Day, which is DE, Convicts Perspective. Or you can reach out to me on my email at William Hunter Vic, that's V as in Victor, ICK, the number 2, at gmail.com. Reach out to me if you have some information, man, in regards to what I just discussed. Like I said, nothing can be stamped as being 100% accurate, but there's some things that will raise questions that I've been heard and people have told me, so let's see what we hear. With that said, I'm gone.